Welcome to the Playful Life podcast. I'm your host, Crystal. I am the owner of Krystalized Health Advisors, author of the Playful Journal, and I've been in the health and fitness industry for over 17 years. I love talking about playfulness and how it relates to our health, overall health, mental, emotional, physical, and spiritual. And this podcast brings you everything from mindset to alternative medicine to really tapping into some different areas of health and fitness. I'm so glad you've joined me here on the podcast. Have you played today? Today on the podcast, I have Alkathy-Ann Patrick. She is a wife, a mother, and business owner. She's a certified personal development coach, health coach, and emotional intelligence practitioner. That is a lot to say. And you may be thinking, well, what is emotional intelligence, right? Does this even apply to me? Absolutely. This applies to you if you have a breath and you have a heartbeat. Believe me, emotional intelligence is so important. And Alkathy really breaks it down and talks about the ways that we can become self-aware and bring out a different growth mindset in the ways that we approach our career, our family, our relationships, every way we navigate the world around us. And Alkathy just comes from a place of personal struggle and her overcoming things about her personal physical health, her mental health, and emotional well-being. And that is why she loves to do this and help others become the best version of themselves. So I hope you enjoy this podcast as much as I enjoyed this interview with Alkathy. Hi, Alkathy.
Hi, Crystal. How are you?
I'm doing okay. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. We don't have snow yet. We had like one pound of snow, but for the most part, we haven't gotten any more. So
All right. That's excellent. Yeah, the sun is shining here today, and I'll take it. I'll take any days that are sunny days. I love them.
Yeah, same.
Well, thanks for agreeing to be on my podcast today. I'm really excited about this conversation we're going to have. And like we were saying, I think it's very poignant to the times and the time of year, and but really can apply to any season of our lives or any seasons of the year. So let's just get right into it. So you are a personal development coach, and you speak with people about their emotional intelligence and also mindset coaching. So I'm always interested to know, how did you get into that? Was there a certain situation or time in your life that inspired you to go into it, or how'd you come into that?
Yeah, I did not see myself becoming a coach. When I came out of high school, I was like administrative assistant because my strength is like organization, structure, and supporting people in that capacity. So I did administration for a very long period of time, and that was my world. I didn't know anything else. But then I started to get to a point in my career where I was not feeling fulfilled. And it was just an odd thing because I'm like, I naturally like to help people, and I was doing that, but the helping that I was doing just didn't leave me feeling like I was serving my true purpose. Mm-hmm. And so the last job that I was at before I made the transition, I started going through this self-discovery journey. I remember, and what led me to it was me having health issues and stress and stuff like that. And it's funny because, sometimes there's things going on in your mind, and that maybe you're going into a different season in your life, but you don't want to accept it because you're so used to what is. And I remember someone had speaked into my life and was, helping me to grow. And so she was saying, because I had started the job and I wasn't there for a year yet. And I was like, okay, I want to settle down, because I was going through seasons of my life where I was having these transitions and they were happening so quickly. And so I'm like, I just want stability. I just want to settle down. And when I was in their office and I was talking to them, they're like, well, Kathy, I don't think maybe you're here for a long term. I think you're just supposed to be here to get what you need to get. And I was like, in my ear, like I was just like wanting to do this, because I was like, I'm not trying to hear that I'm supposed to go and somewhere else, right? And so she's
Wow.
like,
What an interesting conversation with your
yeah,
employer.
it was so, I was just like, I mean, respectfully, I just sat there because she's my friend also, but I'm just like, it's not what you want to hear. And so she's like, whoever you are meant to connect and impact in their life, take that in and what you're supposed to get. And when I was there, a lot of the focus was this understanding my strengths. And I was realizing that I wasn't really tapping into all of my other strengths, my creativity, my other need to like really empower and encourage and motivate people. And so back to with my health, like I was really stressed. A lot of times people think when you do an office job, it's like sit down, it's really easy work, but it's not always, it is not always, it's not that. And you're constantly supporting people and you're being pulled left, right, and center. And so after years, I started to feel very stressed and tired and fatigued. And a lot of the time that when I was in that position, I was single. And I went into a season of my life where now I was married, I had children. And so my energy had to go other places. And so I was realizing that to serve other people in that capacity and to serve my family, I was not coping well. I was not doing it as effectively. And I ended up becoming very overweight. I started to become very emotional. Yeah, I gained like 40 pounds.
Wow.
And I was like always tired. And I was just having these emotional breakdowns over simple little things that I would not normally have a breakdown over. I have a really high like stress level tolerance. So like little things that I started crying over, I was like, I knew I wasn't in a good place, but life is just go, 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 go. And sometimes you feel like you can't stop. But it got to a point where it's like my mindset, if you don't make the choice to make your health a priority, your health is going to force you to make it a priority. And so I ended up leaving that place, and I didn't have another job to go to. I wasn't looking for another job. And I said, okay, well, I got to figure out what my new reality is. What is it that I'm passionate about? I know that administration is always going to be a part of me because, like I said, it's my natural strength. But I was like, okay, what is it that I love to do? And so I started, researching, and then I came across life coaching, and I started researching what attributes do you have to be a life coach. And after I was done going through all my research, I was like, wow, this is me. And that same person who I sat in the office talking to, I told them that. And she's like, Alkathy, that's so you. And just getting that validation, I was like, okay. So I ended up going through schooling. And in the process of going through that schooling, I also came across emotional intelligence. And so with me, I'm a very introspective type of person. I'm always reflecting. I'm always in my head. And I know what I went through emotionally and how I was reacting. And so it was another piece that I put into my coaching. And so from there, I was just like, okay, well, a lot of my life has been focusing on my health and my wellness. And a lot of times, what you help people to do is what you've been through yourself. And so that's how I got into the whole personal development, emotional intelligence side of it.
Awesome. Wow. I think that a lot of people watching this are going to relate to this experience. And, that's stress. And, gosh, I think even now too, people are finding that, their jobs are more stressful because they're having to maybe work remotely or deal with all these extra things, on top of their jobs, like wearing a mask and social distancing and all this stuff. So it's okay. It's okay for people to feel overwhelmed and stressed out, and it's normal. It's normal for people to go through that. So I'm interested to know about like the emotional intelligence part of it. Like, does that relate to like what you were saying on like having the breakdowns and sort of like becoming very emotional, and like what's that piece of it? I'm curious.
Sure. So emotional intelligence, there's two parts to it. To give you the simplified definition of the emotional intelligence, it's being aware of yourself, knowing who you are, managing yourself, and also being able to connect to other people. So within emotional intelligence, there's like a 5-part framework. So you focus on self-awareness, self-management, resiliency and motivation, relationships, empathy. And those are the 5 parts that you focus on. And some people might be good in one area or a couple of areas, and then they might lack. So the first step is self-awareness and understanding where you need to bring that in alignment. So with the self-awareness piece, it's having a true, accurate perception of yourself. So if you think of like a teeter-totter where one person's on one end and the other person's on the other end, sometimes our assessment of ourselves is not always accurate. So in that teeter-totter, you have better, and then you have worse. And then in between that lies the truth. And so sometimes people will be in a situation and they make the situation to be a lot worse than it is. And then sometimes they make it to be a lot better, and it's almost like that self-denial. You're saying, oh, it's not a problem, it's not a problem. So it's like coming in between that and finding the real truth. Because when you're in the middle and you're in the truth, then you can start to take the necessary actions. And then when it comes to your self-management, a lot of times you might hear people say when they get angry, oh, I get angry and I can't help myself. I can't help myself. It's just the way I am, right? And it's with emotional intelligence, it's saying that, yes, acknowledge that you do get angry in the situation, acknowledge the mood and the emotion that you're feeling, but you also have to acknowledge that you are in control of yourself. I know that someone might do something or say something that causes you to feel that emotion, but at the end of the day, they don't cause you to open your mouth and say the things you say or do the things you do. So it's basically accepting responsibility and ownership behavior for your actions, for choosing the appropriate behavior in that situation. And then the third piece to it would be motivation and resiliency. So a lot of times people will say that I'm not motivated. They're looking for those emotions, those, feel good, get me hyped kind of emotions. And it's like, if you sit there waiting for emotions to show up, you're going to be sitting there forever. And you gotta, I always say that motivation is not something that happens, it's something you have to create. So you create that by understanding what motivates you. What might motivate somebody else doesn't motivate the other person. Like for me, I know my motivation is music. That is something that feeds me. So if I know I'm supposed to be like exercising or doing something and I'm just not feeling it, I'm not gonna be like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna wait until I'm motivated to go exercise. What I do is I put on the music, and then that motivation and that energy starts coming in. And so I say to people, well, what motivates you, and what are you telling yourself? There's a saying that where your focus is where your energy flows. So if your focus is always on the negative, I don't like doing this, I can't, all your energy is going to that. And then your actions just follow that, which is a lack of action, right?
Mm-hmm. Right.
And then the other piece is empathy. One of the things with emotional intelligence, and that's the second piece. So a lot of that is understanding yourself, but it's also being able to connect to other people. And the way that you connect with other people is being self-aware of how they would react in a situation. Sometimes you're working or living with somebody, and if you say a certain thing, they're going to react a certain way. And sometimes we still say that, irregardless. And so it's like saying to yourself, I'm aware of how this person will react. I'm aware of how this person would feel. If they're an overly sensitive person, you know that you kind of have to choose your words. And so it's walking into that situation and connecting with a person where you understand that this reaction is going to cause this effect. And so you're, again, being self-aware and choosing the appropriate behavior in that situation so that you have a very positive outcome. And then the last piece is like relationship, communication, conflict resolution. Men and women were two different. We think differently, act different. And in relationships, that's definitely an area where emotional intelligence has to be always exercised, because one person's saying this and then the other person's interpreting this, and then their feelings hurt and then they're reacting, and it's a screaming match and a whole bunch of stuff. So the biggest part of the emotional intelligence is the self-awareness, and then recognizing that you're able to choose your response to that situation.
Wow, that's awesome. Like, and thinking about relationships, I think the healthier you are, or I guess I'll speak from the I, but like the healthier I am, right? I guess the healthier my relationships are too. And, when I talk to clients about that too, like, feeling motivated and, waiting for someone or something to come along and motivate you, you're going to be waiting at that bus stop for a very long time. If you can't find the things or the why or whatever drives you to want to make those changes. And I would like to go kind of through all these pieces, but the first part of it, I think, is where people really struggle and where I would think having a coach like you could really help. So that becoming self-aware, because you're on social media, you live in the world we live in, right? And man, I think there is a real illness of people not being very self-aware. And it seems like when people share their opinions on Facebook, whether it's political or whatever it is, people are very quick to judge others. And I feel like we need this. We need self-reflection. And so, without giving your coaching away, obviously, like it's important for people to work with you one-on-one. But what does that process kind of look like? Is it journaling? Is it doing sort of like an inventory of yourself? Is it, asking others their opinion of you? What would that look like to become like self-aware?
Not necessarily journaling. So when I talk to people about self-awareness, there's some things that you did touch upon, and that's reflection. I find that a lot of people sometimes don't do that. And it's very important to, take that time and really understand why you feel that way. I think a lot of people, there's like that surface level of self-awareness, and people recognize that, they feel a certain way or they have certain emotions, but they don't go deeper. They don't ask themselves, well, what is it that really makes me upset or is getting me emotional about that situation? So a lot of times I will listen to clients and I will ask certain questions. It's being very intuitive on listening, because sometimes they might say stuff, but they're not really coming out and saying. Sometimes they might not even understand themselves why they feel the way they feel. So it's asking questions like, okay, well, when that happened, how did it make you feel? Why did it make you feel that way? What do you think that person's actions or words is communicating to you? Do you feel that's a true picture of what that person feels? Because a lot of times, maybe, you have a spouse and they did something and you're like, they always do this, right? And it makes you upset. Well, are they always doing that? Is that a true picture of what they do? Or are they sometimes doing it? And do you feel like there really is a malicious intent? Do you really feel that that person doesn't care? Or are they just naturally a forgetful person, or they're going through stuff and they have a whole lot of things? So it's really understanding the whys behind why you feel that way. And when you understand why you feel that way, is there truth in that? And that's where I talk about that teeter-totter. Like, what you're feeling doesn't necessarily mean there's truth. There might be a little touch of truth here and there, but is that the real truth? Because what you're thinking is going to fuel your actions towards that situation or that person.
Wow. Yeah. And I think that's where the empathy piece comes in too, right? And saying that it's not always that person that you're arguing with or that you don't get along with at work or whatever. It's not that person's like out to get you necessarily, but I think when you become self-aware and you know where you're coming from, it probably feeds into that empathy of, okay, well, now I can understand where, he or she is coming from, because they have their own set of issues and things that they bring to work or to school or to the relationship, home, whatever. So, it's like I could see how those two pieces go together.
And the thing with empathy is that sometimes people struggle with empathizing because they think that being empathetic means that you're validating and saying that what they say and they do is okay. And it's not that you're justifying or saying what they've done is okay. You're just saying, you're taking that standpoint where you're understanding and you say, I can understand why you feel that or why you would react in that situation. That situation doesn't necessarily mean that what you said and did was right, but I acknowledge and I can understand. I put myself in your shoe.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's where like that's the crux of conflict resolution. And I mean, thinking it even on like a global scale, right? If we could just get to a point where, yeah, I might not agree with this person, or, I think they're just wrong with their opinions. But, being able to kind of move past that and say, well, why do they think that? Why do they feel that way? Why are they angry about this? Or, and come to that understanding, because I think it's in that place that we're able to figure things out, wouldn't you say?
Yeah. And we have to understand as well that not everybody thinks the same. Not everybody's story and journey is the same. So they're coming from a different perspective. And when we understand that just because they didn't do things or think the way that we think doesn't make them any less, or that they don't care. It's just that maybe their upbringing or the way that they experience life is different from yourself,
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And going back to that motivation piece, I'm curious because I know when we had talked before, you did talk about kind of your transformation. And again, having that, gone through that and going through that transformation enables you to help people in their journey too. So what was that like for you? What was kind of your why to losing weight or getting into shape or being healthier? All of those things. What would you say was kind of your driving why, your motivation?
When I first started my health journey, I didn't have a why at first because I was so, I don't know if it's in denial, like I wasn't recognizing yet that I needed to make those changes. Mm-hmm. And what happened was when I had left my job, I was fortunate that my parents had paid for myself and my son to go on a trip to Jamaica to come and visit. And I remember taking pictures, and I was sitting outside the house and I was looking at the pictures and I was like, wow, like I really let myself go. So like I wasn't paying attention to who I was in the mirror. I wasn't looking. So I almost like numbed myself to the way I was. And when I looked at the picture, it was what triggered me to say, you really got to take care of yourself. You've got a husband, you've got a child. And then my why started to come in. But most importantly, I always say, when it comes to self-care, it's like you've got to put the oxygen mask on yourself first before you help other people. And the thing with me being the type of person who likes to help, I forget that piece. Like I got to help myself if I want to continue to help other people. But I was like totally backwards. And so I think for me, my why was I want to continue to help, but I got to do it in a more effective, more healthier way. And so when I got back from the trip, I started to say, okay, well, you know what? I got to make my health a priority. And then I started, losing the weight and eating better and doing my research and all that kind of stuff. And then it just went from there.
I hope you're enjoying this episode so far. I just wanted to take a quick break and thank a couple of the sponsors here at Ron Harlow Media that make the Playful Life podcast possible. So the first one, of course, is, as always, Baxter Printing. Dave Tarosi and his family at Baxter Printing have been there for a very long time, and they do great work, guys. If you are looking for any kind of printing needs, whether it's documents or large things such as mailers, maybe you're doing a political campaign or starting a business, whatever it is, Baxter Printing has got you set, and they are a family-owned business. So who doesn't like to support a family-owned local business? So give Dave and his awesome staff there a call today to get your printing needs done. 923-1999. Again, 219-923-1999. Also, big thank you to Humane Indiana. Of course, we all know how wonderful a fur baby or a furry friend can be in our lives to bring joy and companionship. And Humane Indiana does a great job of finding the perfect pet for you. And especially now during COVID, you can go there and be safe and hang out with the animals and find the perfect one to take home with you. So Humane Indiana, their number is 922-3811. Again, 219-922-3811. Now back to the show. How powerful too, as a mother and a wife, and you have people looking up to you and depending on you in so many ways. And I think women, especially moms, I'm not a mom yet, but I know a lot of moms, and it does seem like mothers especially find themselves in that predicament where they sort of manage the household. They're cooking, they're cleaning, they're running kids here and there, and emotionally supporting people as well. That at the end of the day, the well runs a little bit dry for mom. So did you ever find it difficult, or I guess run into any like opposition with your family? Were they supportive of you on that journey? Like what was that like for them and your family dynamic when you were putting in the work to get healthier?
There wasn't any opposition, but it was like, whoa, a new change. Like, because I was always doing everything. Everyone could rely on me on the house. It would get done. You don't have to worry about it. And so I realized that one of the important things, especially as a woman, is that we have problems delegating. We like to do it ourselves, or we don't sometimes have the patience. Oh, if I got to do it, you've got to do it, then I got to do it myself because I'll get it done faster. And I don't want to take the time to explain this to you. And that's just how we are, right? We just want to get going to the next task. And so it
Self-awareness.
yeah, I was like, wait, we got to do stuff now. And even down to like my 6 years old, like I teach him independence. I'm like, there's certain things that I don't have to do. And it's one less thing for me to do. So even in like our morning time, like he's got his little list of routine, and it helps me. Like my mornings are so much better. I'm not stressing. I'm not like trying to run here, get this, get that. Like he does his part and we work together. And that has really helped in me being less stressed and less hurried. And I think, people sometimes maybe just need to sit down and understand the dynamics and the balance, the scale. Sometimes, you're not always fortunate because you have people who are single moms, and I get that. But if it's possible, wherever you can delegate. They probably might be like, this is a new norm. Like, what is this? But, introduce it slowly. I started to put my foot down a lot because it was like simple little things, like they would lose their stuff and they're like, do you know where this is? And I was like, it's not my stuff. Why would I know where your stuff is? It's like, mommy knows everything. So it's like making them more responsible and independent. I think that was a big key. And they were on board with it. I mean, it took some time and repetition and reminding, but once everybody kind of fell in, everything in the house was even more smooth. And I had more time because I know one thing that my husband kept saying, like when we wanted to go out and stuff, he'd be like, I wasn't always present because my mind was like thinking, what I got to do next, what I got to do. And so I was always thinking. And so I either would shy away from wanting to do family stuff because I'm like, if I go and take my time to do this, then when I come back, this is what's meeting me. And so it was very important for me to realize that I don't have to do everything, and they're more than capable of doing things for themselves. Here's that self-awareness, like I'm not superwoman. I had to be self-aware that I'm not superwoman and I'm not an octopus. I don't have a whole bunch of legs to do all these things. And so that's what I kept telling myself over and over, because I think subconsciously I was telling myself I was superwoman when I was not.
Yeah. Oh, that's so beautiful. And what a gift it is to others when we allow them to kind of step up and have more responsibility. And I learned that the hard way, in my life and my relationships and my family, sort of like taking a step back and saying like, I don't have to do everything. I don't have to spin all the plates in the air. And, also like, I've got God to rely on for that, right? I've got a higher power. I've got something, someone to rely on when even the things that I am responsible for get to be too much. So I celebrate you for allowing your family that dignity and that freedom to, be able to make their own mistakes and be able to take on their own responsibilities. And I think that that's a gift that'll keep on giving, even when they're in the moment, like, oh, couldn't mom just do that for us? I mean, I think they'll grow up and be, have a stronger emotional intelligence, kind of going into their relationships and understanding, their role and things. So that's really cool. I honor you for that, for sure. So have you seen, like, with everything going on in the world with COVID and, all this kind of unrest that we have, uncertainty, have people been seeking this more from you? I mean, what's your experience been like with the people that you're helping?
Um, for me personally, I don't think people are necessarily seeking. They know that their health is important, but because of the present situation with income, people are a little bit more taking a step back and counting every single dollar to see like where things might be spent. And I totally get it. I had a conversation recently with somebody, and she's like, I'm having to sell things in my home just to stay afloat. And my heart like goes out to a lot of people. I mean, I'm very fortunate not to be in that situation, but I could be down the road, and it's a hard time that we're in. It's a very hard time that we're in. And I think people want to deal with their health, but they're kind of like in between this tug between, well, do I keep the roof over my head or do I deal with my health,
Very, very true. And how strange too that I think as Americans, especially, I don't know, I feel like I could speak with authority as an American, that sort of our culture is, well, go, 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 go until you can't go anymore. And how strange that now it's like, no, stay home if you don't feel well. And it's very like backwards for us to think like that. And I think that's why maybe our country is having such a difficult time getting through COVID, because I was just having this conversation with a friend of mine yesterday, and just mild cold symptoms or something like that, right? I totally would have been that person who got dressed, went to work, taught a fitness class, whatever, and now it's like, oh, I got a sniffle this morning. Is it COVID? Maybe I should stay home, and she was kind of saying the same thing. I mean, when she had a cold or something like that, like she would get on the train, go, on the train with people, go get her coffee in the morning in Chicago, walk through a crowded building, high five or whatever people on the way up to her office. And it's like such a weird thing that, like, I mean, first of all, we're dealing with not having so much social interaction, but also like, taking a step back and really focusing on our health is something that like Americans just don't do. I mean, I'm sure it's a worldwide thing to some extent, but like what is your advice, I guess, to people just becoming like more aware of their health and taking the time to like check in and have that conversation with themselves maybe?
The thing I say, I think COVID, one of the things that it made us really stop and understand and realize what's important in life. Like you said, we're on this go, go, go mentality, and we've kind of had to slow down, and people are starting to realize what really matters in life, family, your health, and all that stuff. But I think we still have that little bit of that numbness when it comes to our health. And I always say to people, like, your health, when you hear the word asset, you think usually your car, your house, all these things. Mm-hmm. But I say your health is your greatest asset. And you worrying about trying to save the home and trying to save the car and go to work and have the job, I get that. Those are important things because they help you to function in life. But if your health is no good, it doesn't matter if you have the roof over your head. Like if you're going to be up in the hospital sick, like you're not going to have the house, you're not going to have the car. So you got to make sure that you see your health as an important asset, and you got to take care and have those conversations and see what you can do. And even if you're on a tight budget, at least do something. Like you might be restricted to your house because of all the restrictions, but go for a walk around your house, like move some of the furniture, do something to continue to maintain your health or improve your health. Because a lot of people are stuck in their house, they're going with depression, they're feeling the anxiety. And if you stay in that state, it's not going to be a great place to be. So you got to recognize, like, where am I right now in my health, and what can I do to either maintain it or better it? Because I don't think COVID's going to go anytime soon. And I know they're coming out with all these vaccines, but we have to kind of, recognize what our current reality is and make those adjustments, whether it's big or small.
Yeah. Yeah. Amen. And, it's COVID this year, but who knows what it'll be next year or the year after. And there's always colds, there's always flus, there's always pneumonia and all these things that could hit us, while we're down. And I think, in some ways, right, we have to find the blessing in every situation. And maybe that's it, just becoming more self-aware, like you're saying, and, being able to kind of take a step back and realize what's important. And I love that you describe health as an asset, because I think when people think of the word like prosperity or, abundance and all these things, they think about stuff, they think about, oh, a prosperous person is someone who has a really nice car and, can pay all their bills, no debt, whatever. And, but if that person doesn't have their health, then I don't think they're very prosperous, in any way, because they're not going to be around to enjoy it. So, I love that you touched on that for sure. So, if someone, what would be someone that comes to you, say someone's sitting there and they're kind of on the fence and they're like, well, I don't know, maybe this could be something that could help me, or someone they know. What would you say is kind of like your ideal client? Who's somebody that you help?
My first number one is coachable. That's my thing. You think naturally as a business owner, you just want to coach every and anybody because it's business. You're in there to, run a business, and I get it. But I really understand and I recognize that not everybody is ready for change. There are things that sometimes they have to work through. And one of the worst things is that when you're trying to support somebody and they're fighting you all the way, it's like having a child where you're trying to tell them, no, that's, or go this direction. And they're like, fighting you the entire way. And it's like, I think we both want to go the same way, but that resistance. So definitely someone who's coachable and open-minded. As a mindset coach, I try to work with people who are willing to hear something from a different perspective. At the end of the day, you will make your own decisions, and I will empower you to step into whatever decision you feel is right for you. But you have to come to the table with an open mind. And I work with you through that. I'm not expecting someone to come to me and be perfect and, be that go-getter, because you're going to have moments when, you're going to have the self-doubt, you're going to have those limited beliefs, you're going to, have those hesitations. But if you're willing and you're open to continue to take those steps forward, those are the people that I tend to work with. And when it comes to health, I help people when it comes to losing weight, just as myself, and managing your cholesterol and just being overall healthy. And I try to take a holistic approach to it. So even though I'm a mindset and health coach, I truly believe that there's different parts to us, our relationship, our finance, and all of those are interconnected. So someone might come to me with weight issues, but then I have to dive deeper and say, well, what's feeding that? Mm-hmm. Is it maybe stress on the job? So we touch on those kind of things, because you don't want to, deal with the surface level things and not get to the root cause, because then it's just going to be that continual repetition of going through an endless circle. So, right. Yeah.
Right. Oh, I love that you say that. And so true that there are the layers that you have to peel back, so, yeah. So it's like, people be aware that, if you do call Alkathy or, any kind of coach, that, there it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable, right? You're going to have to kind of look in the mirror and take an inventory and say, okay, what do I need to change? And then be willing to change. So I like that you mentioned that for sure. So I was thinking of this question I was going to ask you, but so personal development, we kind of touched on that, but I'm curious, Alkathy, what kind of personal development do you do? Because I know that in the coach realm and stuff, right, the more developed we become, the more we can help others. So, where do you go for inspiration? Or do you read books? Do you listen to podcasts? Do you read scripture? I mean, what keeps you kind of going on the personal development?
Music, for one. I listen to a lot of music, especially like gospel music. It's been my, I don't know, music has a way of just like articulating things that sometimes I can't always express. So that is my go-to. And I don't know, I'm like, I like quotes. I always go on like Google and I like not necessarily affirmations, but like these little quotes, like these little drops of wisdom. It causes my mind to like go in this like reflection mode and stuff. So those are my go-tos. Like on my like Instagram, you'll see sometimes like I'll have a little quote here and there, and it might be something I'm reflecting on, or you know, something that maybe spoke to me in that situation. So definitely like scriptures and quotes and music is my go-tos.
Awesome. Cool. And I love that. I love that you mentioned music because people might not like always count that, but I think it is important, you know, what we're listening to and the message behind it. And, you know, is it positive? Is it uplifting? Does it have a good message to keep you going? You know, I think like, you know, talk to any teenager and they often like will listen to like, you know, depressing stuff or like, you know, I grew up in the 90s, so there was a lot of grunge and, you know, a lot of just really, you know, melancholy type of songs. And even writing myself, I find that I use a lot of minor chords. And so it's like in the last year or two, I've kind of made this switch to at least incorporating some positive, uplifting, you know, maybe more spiritual music and stuff into my life. And it really does make a difference. You know, it really does help, you know, put you in a different mindset for sure. For sure. Yeah. I like that. And that it can be bite-sized. It doesn't have to be, you know, reading long soliloquies or listening to, you know, books for hours and hours. It could just be like you're saying, you know, reading a quote and having it really hit you and be like, wow, you know, that's really profound. Let me think about all the ways and that kind of makes sense to me, and then just sort of get the thought process going. So I like that. It seems very tangible for people to do, you know, to make those changes.
The thing with mindset is that you have to understand that whatever you feed your mind, some of it will go on and in your subconscious self. And so you got to be careful what you're putting in, because what you put in eventually is going to come out. And so if you're not feeding yourself with positivity, if you're not feeding yourself with things that are going to cause you to take those forward steps, and it's just negativity or garbage that you're kind of like putting in your mind, then that's not going to propel you forward. So it's so important to feed yourself with something that's going to elevate you and not demotivate you.
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks. Well, let's segue right into this. You know, where can we find you? You know, what's your Instagram? Do you have a Facebook page, a website, all that? So people can connect with you and, you know, start getting this inspiration, you know, from you that you're posting. And I love being connected with you on social media.
Yeah. So my Instagram is just at Alkathy-Ann. So Kathy with a K. So ALKATHY and ANN. And my Facebook is A Changed Mind is a Changed Life with that mindset.
Yeah.
So, yeah. I thought a lot about that Facebook name, but yeah, that. So you can find me on Facebook. That's my business page. But a lot of my stuff is in my name. Just remove the hyphen. There's a hyphen between Alkathy-Ann. So anytime you look for me, just take out the hyphen, Alkathy-Ann Patrick.
Okay, very good. And I'll link that, you know, of course, in the show notes too, here and everywhere it is. So, so ever since I met you, I have wanted to ask you this question. I'm sure you get this all the time, but your name is so unique, Alkathy. So, I mean, I think at first when I was hearing some of our friends say your name, I was like, are they saying that right? Like until I saw it written. So cool. I mean, is it like a family name? Is it just something different that your parents thought of? I mean, I love it. I love it.
It's funny because I just got asked this question. Like I always get asked about my name, and people always think, oh, is your father named Al and your mother named Kathy? I'm like, not even close. So what happened was my mom had a neighbor, and that neighbor had a daughter named Kathy-Ann. And so she really liked the name, but she didn't want to copy it completely. So she just added the AL and then it came Alkathy. So there's nothing really interesting about my name. I wish I had a really great, awesome story, but that's pretty much it. Yeah.
That's really funny. Did you end up knowing that neighbor growing up?
No, I don't think I met the neighbor. If I did, I was probably a baby at that time. The only thing is I say to my mom all the time, because my sister has a name that actually has a meaning, and I always bother her all the time. I'm like, why didn't I get a name that means something? So, I mean, we all have our different stories about our names, but yeah.
That's so cool. It's so cool. I don't know, like I think of alchemy when I look at your name, and like chemistry and just like I don't know, like sort of metaphysical things. Like that's kind of where I go when I like see your name and hear it. So I just think it's really cool. And I think when our parents can name us something unique and that stands out in the crowd, like go mom and dad. Like, I mean, that was really cool of them. So I love it. Thank you for sharing that. I think other people would be curious to know that. Well, thank you so much, Alkathy. I loved our conversation today, and I'm sure our listeners got a lot out of it for sure. And again, I'm going to link in the show notes here where to find you and follow you and get in touch with you if they want to work with you. And I think what a great time of year. We're heading into the new year now when we do this, but people will find this podcast forever and ever. And, it's always a good time to work on yourself, always a good time to improve your life. And it's never too late, never too early. The time is always perfect right now. So thank you for joining me. And I honor you for being here today. And God bless you. Have great holidays.
Thank you for having me. I'm always super excited to connect with you. We have always great conversations. So I'm glad.
Yeah, I agree. I'm so glad God brought us together, brought our paths together. So thank you. All right. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Thank you so much for joining me on the podcast today. This has been The Playful Life. And as always, thank you to Ron Harlow Media, where you can find Ron Harlow every day from 4 to 6 Central Time, and The Cheeky Mom on Wednesday mornings at 10 a.m. We've got great programming here at Ron Harlow Media. And as always, you can like, follow, and subscribe to this podcast anywhere you find and listen to your favorite podcasts. Have an awesome rest of your day. Be awesome and stay playful.